Good evening. I will now call our July 9th, 2024 Bermuda Run Town Council meeting to order. As a reminder for everyone, please remember to silence your phones. I recognize we have a full quorum tonight. We'll start first with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As we do each meeting, we begin our meeting with a moment of silence. It is the intent of the Town Council to make solemn the proceedings of this meeting and the business brought before the governing board, to offer the opportunity for a reflective moment of silence. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Agenda item number 4, Town of Bermuda Run Code of Ethics Statement. Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Council. Pursuant to North Carolina General Statutes 160A 86 and 160D 109, and the Town of Bermuda Run Code of Ethics Policy adopted November 9th, 2010, and further endorsed on August 9th, 2022, I would ask each of you before you adopt the agenda if there's any actual, potential, or perceived conflicts of interest with respect to any matter on the proposed agenda which will come before the Town Council for a vote at this meeting tonight. If so, please speak up and let the council know at this time before the agenda is adopted. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Excuse me. Item number 5, adoption of the agenda. Council has had an opportunity to review the agenda. Are there any revisions?
I make a motion that we adopt the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Show of hands. 5-0. Thank you, Council. Item number 6, approval of the June 11th, 2024 Town Council meeting minutes.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Show of hands. Unanimous. Thank you, Council. Agenda item number 7, citizens' comments.
Mr. Mayor, no one signed up to speak tonight.
Okay. Agenda item number 8, presentation. Mr. Paul Moore, Davie County Recreation and Parks. As I asked Paul to come from Davie County Parks and Rec to come forward, I will remind our audience that the council is welcome to ask questions, but we will not take questions from the audience, as this is our protocol for town council meetings. If you do have questions, I encourage you to contact the town, and we will forward your questions to Mr. Moore. So with that, Mr. Moore, thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you, Council. Appreciate the opportunity to come and discuss our newly adopted Recreation Park Master Plan. This is an update to the 15-year plan that was adopted back in 2013. Part of the reason we wanted to look at an update is to look at the future of Davie County Recreation Parks and our future park system. As you all know, we're now out of infancy and into toddlerhood as far as an agency is concerned, and we've hit the ground running. We've built a new park. We've had a Bike Ped Greenway master plan approved, now an approved adopted master plan update, which takes us into the next 5 to 7 years. And why is this important? We want to keep the momentum going. We have an opportunity, unlike any other county in this state, in Davie County, in that we don't have a park system yet, and that is the exciting part of it, yet. And what you're going to hear tonight is a little bit of a vision that I've put together, and we'll be selling it for the next few years as we are looking at the important recommendations coming out of this plan. So, looking at the agenda is plain summary, just going through the master plan itself. Go ahead and scroll forward. As you see, the master plan update is already online, and it goes through all the natural introductions, influencing factors. What are the inventory assets that we have? What are the needs? That was the important piece, and I wanted to speak on that a little bit because needs of our residents are what drive a selling point for our future. And McGill, our consultant, had a top-notch way of looking at how to engage with our residents. They were on site for events, for multiple events. They gave multiple platforms in which citizens could engage. They had also a statistically valid survey that was done that took a random sampling of different household residents across this county. And that was a focal point, whether visually, in writing, or focus groups. We had multiple focus groups that hit different demographics. That was strictly important. But also within the statistically valid survey, I made it a point with ETC Institute, who did our survey, was to look at, to help our municipalities by looking at what your area residents are thinking, and then combining those to also look at what are the overall needs, to look at facility programming, amenities, and park types. So what were the trends? So just going through that, 4 notes that really come out of the update. Number 1, people are moving and staying in Davie County because of a sense of community and that wonderful word, rural heritage, that everybody talks about. Our agency, as far as a recreation and park agency, is young, and we're off to a great start. People like the progress that has been made and want to see that continue. Another trend was we have a limited number of recreation properties and facilities to serve this growing population, and that's what we want to focus on. And the current recreation offerings are generally centralized at our park. While we do have a mobile rec unit that's been very successful, we also have one of the few counties that still have active community centers that are out there. So you don't hear much about those in other counties. A lot of those properties have been acquired by the local government or by your local park and recreation agency. But here we don't have that much. There has been offerings of certain properties in the county to look at us, but our vision is not to that point yet. So what are the expressed needs? So our strong public response was that they want to retain that sense of rural heritage and living. They want to retain and grow the sense of community, a need to access for open space, desire for unique recreation and park facilities, and that's the key word, unique, and that's a driving point for our future. Walkability, still high on the list, even since 2013. Of needs assessment from then, 2017 and 2018, and in 2023, the walkability. You guys are in the catbird seat here because you have the Blue Heron Trail. What a fantastic greenway, and I'm using your trail as leverage and a reason to tell our leadership at the county level, hey, Bermuda Run's got the Blue Heron Trail. We need to look at connectivity within our Bike Ped Greenway Master Plan, which also is brought up in our comprehensive master plan update. So thank you guys. You guys have got a great head start and a beautiful greenway that I've walked on. My dogs have been on, my son and I, and we absolutely love it. And lastly, services and events for all populations groups. Go ahead and scroll forward. So when we take a look at how we're developing a plan, within our mapping structure, we're looking for the backbone. So one of the things that I want to talk to you about tonight is we've got to develop a backbone first. And where does the backbone start? It starts up here in the north in the Farmington, Bermuda Run areas. So part of our recommendations is looking at land banking. When we've got to focus on a plan at this time now, because in 10, 15 years, as development is naturally coming this way, costs are going to be 3, 4, 5 times the cost today as it will be 10 years in the future. So that's something we want to focus on. So get to that. So again, looking at backbones, and then looking at expanding east-west and hitting a conglomerate. Now, our national standards say we should have roughly 15 to 20 parks. That is a benchmark that National Recreation Park Association has gathered. However, they also teach us to be change agents. And sometimes we have to stand up to what the status quo is, and that's what I'm looking for our future park system. Instead of having 15 to 20 parks, I'm looking to have 6 to 7 total. Okay. Now, if you go around the outside counties, Forsyth, Iredell, Rowan, Davidson, Yadkin, and visit their park systems, once you've seen one, you've about seen them all. For the most part, I would say at least 85% of those parks look relatively the same. You have your anomalies like Tanglewood, Salem Park, Dan Nicholas Park, Jennings Park, in Iredell County. So just to give you an example. But specialized parks are far and few between. We're in the business of recreation and tourism here in Davie County, not just parks and recreation, but recreation and tourism. What can we build that are going to bring people here to spend their money and leave with their problems, right? So this is where we look at the future of our system of land banking and a future system of 6 parks that are specialized parks, okay? These parks being, for example, one of those may be an aerial adventure park. There is one in Texas, beautiful community, and it drives people almost 5 hours away to spend just a few hours at that park. However, when you look at what's in it for Davie County for that future, for those who live here, for you yourselves, your grandchildren or great-grandchildren, if you live here, you're going to be the ones that have these specialized parks that can also have access to them at half or more of the cost, rather than we're looking at tourism, letting that money flow into our county. So moving forward, again, we're going to conserve the rural culture, acquire land and green space before it's no longer available, and invest in larger parks that spread across the county and offer a slightly different experience rather than being a duplications of the same park. So what are other options? You think, okay, well, Paul, you've given us one. What else is there out there? Well, the county has bought a piece of property off of Main Church Road. That is going to be our future. We are an ag county. So that's going to be our future ag and equestrian park. Okay, so there's another one. Another one I envision is a roller park. All things roller. We hear parents all the time talk about we have no roller skating rinks or ice skating rinks. Well, these are all things type of skate parks, rollerblading, even bringing back roller derby, which is popular in some states coming back. So again, bringing back that tourism. There is still sentiment for a community pool. Now, I have been very neutral on that subject for many years because many times a local pool is one of the biggest tax burdens to a community. However, I have recently visited a few places, a few unique pool facilities that have changed my mind that if we're to build one, I want to build one that's similar in nature. One of those is in Hickory Cool Pool Park. So if you've ever visited that, it's very unique. It is not local government controlled, but it's private. But it has a unique architectural structure that drives tourism and drives money to that community. And we went just a couple of weeks ago. We probably spent about $100 in that county afterwards, not including the pool. So see that driving force that we're talking about. Go ahead and move forward. Again, looking at facility recommendations based upon guidelines, we look at district parks. That's what we're looking at, big district parks. One in the north, one in the south, two in the central, and in the east and west. So kind of looking back at that map, what do those look like? So that's what we're selling for our future. Now, we have the park at Lake Louise. What's that look like? So We have recently gone after a Parks and Recreation Trust Fund grant. As you know, that's public-private. It started as a public-private venture and can still be that way. We're looking to acquire the park at Lake Louise and Lake Louise Park to change the name, while Dr. Duncan still has the golf course, and Dallas Jones's property of the driving range was recently sold to Matt Tula, and he's looking at a interesting type of family golf atmosphere, a scaled-down version of a Top Golf type of facility potential in the future. And where we could look at a public-private venture with Dr. Duncan in the future to expand those golf facilities. What might we be looking at for kiddos? There's one in Winston, but we may have one here too. Looking at a potential mini golf, but also expanding the facilities there at Lake Louise. So again, if we look at that as within the future of our system, it's all things golf. It's a specialized park, but even though it's still public-private. Move forward. So again, going back to multimodal input methodology, it was multiple ways that we looked to gather input, and it was great. Let me tell you, our residency across this county are fantastic. They gave us some insight that we didn't even think about of types of facilities, and that is the beauty of public input and why it is so important. Move forward. So again, going back to recommendations, you see our capital needs there. That's more of centralist based to our county, but it involves Bermuda Run too when we think about our greenway walkabilities, but also a facility, future park facility in the northern tier of this county. We'll move forward. And again, we have those express needs for more parks and green space and more programming. One of the things that we take pride in is we like to look and find things that other park and recreation agencies are not doing or that are afraid to do. We find those needs. I can tell you one of the niche programs we have found, we have a massive homeschool population that is not officially organized. We have Mondays and Wednesdays there at the park. We have a home fun and fit health physical education class that has exploded. So looking at doing things that aren't doing, but also another key piece that we take pride in is that you may find events that we'll do a few years in a row and all of a sudden they're gone. And why do we do that? Because we're taking away things not to replicate services, but to find other new and interesting things that the community might take part in. It's called keeping your agency viable to your community. We want to remain viable. We want to keep the community guessing of what we might do next. So that's an important part of what we do. Go ahead and move forward. Another portion of the update focused on smart agency growth and looking at future maintenance staff, special event specialists and marketing specialists, some of which have already transitioned. We have a programmer, and our maintenance position has gone full time. But you see that top left, the business manager. A lot of park and recreation agencies focus on an assistant director. I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at our agency being a service and a business. How are we going to bring a return on investment? That position there, which will likely come out next year, we'll see if it gets approved, is looking at least 3 times their salary every year in return on investment, because that's their sole focus is nothing but grants, sponsorships, and partnerships. And that includes with our local municipalities too. Move forward. Again, looking at new and future facilities, there you see the backbone and the future. Move forward. Again, we talk about ROI. We're in a very conservative county, and I look at when we talk about budget and look at facilities, I'm looking at what kind of return on investment to that quality of life aspect can we bring back to this county. If I'm needing money for a master plan update or new facilities or new amenities, many times what is asked is, what are you bringing to the table? So while I don't look to overburden the taxpayer, much like our splash pads, $2 entry, it doesn't break the bank, we still make we make revenue green 3 out of the 4 years that we've been open. So we look at ways to be unique, things that are going to drive revenue but drive return on investment. But also looking at our property values with what recreation facilities and amenities that are being built. Trails, greenways are a great example. District parks are a great example. These things inside of a 5-mile radius are going to increase property values. Go ahead and move forward. And a big part of what we're looking at doing is leveraging our investment with grant dollars. Now, those are state and federal, and lots of times when you're thinking about large specialty facilities, there's not many federal and state grants that are out there that are going to cover those types of facility costs. So what is often done is we look to voters to help with that. But we have a roadblock in our way in that we have county debt service from a school bond that we're working to clear and chop down as quick as we can. And I realize that. So for now, we're looking at how can we best leverage those grant dollars while that debt service keeps coming down. But we will look at a future bond, I'd say within the next 5 to 10 years. And it will be substantial, and I would request that it not be on property tax. However, we're going to take a huge page when we do this out of Clayton that passed a bond a couple years ago that sold it beautifully to their residency. They're young, they're families, and they're active older adults. They sold it beautifully, and they are going to be reaping the benefits in the future as they look to move and develop on those types. But it's smart growth, it's smart vision, looking at bringing a return on investment, not just a tax burden year after year from a budget, okay, and being subsidized. We're already doing great as an agency. The state average cost recovery is around 16 to 17%, and we've been around 23% in the last few years, so been doing well. Go ahead and move forward. So that concludes our presentation. I know I've given you a wealth of information, a lot of vision in a very short time. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you.
So Paul, what's the, and I'm ignorant on this, and I hate that I am, but what is the opportunity, for example, for the town of Bermuda Run to schedule your mobile recreational vehicle to come to one of our town events? Is there something that can be done for that?
Yeah, just give us a call, make a request, and we'll see what our schedule lines up with. It's all about scheduling.
Absolutely.
Something that we can schedule to do.
That would
Absolutely.
be great. Yeah, it's a wonderful program. It's fun to watch and to keep up with you guys on Facebook.
And something that we hope that the mobile rec unit will do in the future as we continue to grow is we're going to develop a corporate leadership team, in that not only will our mobile rec be for mobile recreation, but it'll be for mobile leadership too. If you remember, and you'll remember this, you remember when we went to Jennings Park?
Yes.
You remember the leadership activities that we did with that? Iredell Parks and Recreation does a smaller version of that, but they
Okay.
only do it at Jennings Park. I'm looking to taking that mobile unit all around the county. So whether it be a municipality that's looking for leadership activities for a day or 2 days or 3 days or a week, or it may be Ingersoll Rand that calls and says, hey, we want to set something up, learn some leadership activities to bond us together even further. That'll be part of the accessible portion of mobile rec in the future.
Nice. So team building.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that sounds great. And another question, I know you were working on an addition there at the community park with a tree?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that.
So, excellent. So we are in the design phase. It's a straight design build project. It's called Canoplay Treescape. This was a accessibility for parks grant, the first round. And we were fortunate enough to win that grant and made it to the top of the list for the governor's press release. So we had a very unique project. As you saw the name, they saw the name, was like, what is that? So I can't tell you how many dignitaries have been keeping up with this project and calling me every so often to see how the progress is going. We have selected a consultant, Artisan Industries, out of Tennessee. They are phenomenal. They are Imagineers.
Okay.
So, which fits directly into what we're looking at. But it's going to be, instead of calling it a tree house, we call it a treescape because it's an adventure. It's nature meets adventure. It's adventure meets accessibility. It's the wow factor. You're already going to be in the air because where we're building it is off of a steep ravine. But also in doing so, we part of the park, there's a section outside. There's a section of the park outside that we missed ADA wise, but this piece is going to connect where we missed out on an ADA piece. Is going to make it now ADA accessible.
Nice.
With our current boardwalk observatory.
Right.
The pathway to get down there, we have 2 erosion bumps that are there, and the steep is the pitch angle is a little more outside of ADA guidelines. So this treescape will also have interactives leading to the existing boardwalk observatory. It is both for children with disabilities and veterans with disabilities, so there'll be a veterans piece to it. We're working really hard, looking at a potential digital application for the veterans piece. Something that if it works out, where you've seen a lot of veteran murals, they're there forever. But if we're looking at a digital piece that we could swap things out, rotate things in and out, different wars, different scenes, different veterans that were from this county could be shown in there and their stories. So something, hopefully if it works out and we're able to maneuver that within the budget, it'll all be well. So this week we have our 30% meeting, 30, 60, 90. We hope to be 30%. At 60%, we're going to have a couple of public input meetings so that the public can have an opportunity to see what features and amenities are part of this streetscape and give us some ideas and thoughts to consider, especially being that it has to be full ADA and full universal design.
Awesome.
I'm excited about that. We hope to be in construction November, December.
Oh, wow,
and he
okay.
wants to be open by next summer. We'll see.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you go back a couple of slides to the map? I think it
Yep.
was just a slide or 2 back. There we go. So you talked about sort of 2 different components. You talked about the park system itself and the concepts that you were describing. You also referenced walkability, and something certainly we're passionate about in this town. Paint a picture, as I look at this map, I see what I'll call satellite sort of locations, but talk about how connectivity or walkability is in that vision. Is it within those areas or
it's
connecting
within.
to those areas?
Correct. It is within, but it's also, the main focal point for the walkability is in our current bike ped Greenway Master Plan. And there's a section to take Bermuda Run down into Advance, and Bermuda Run down 81 toward Farmington. So taking a section, completing sections at a time. Now, as we know, as you know, it takes a considerable amount of time to build a greenway system. It took Wake County, 56 years to build their greenway system, because there's a lot of parts and pieces, working with your willing property owners and even working with those that may not be willing, but you, under persistence and understanding, sometimes those can change way. Looking at utility easements that you can cross over some of those barriers. So absolutely we'll be looking at. We're working on now, we did a feasibility study of doing a 5-mile loop that brings us from the northern part of the park all the way around or through downtown, back in behind, not Ingersoll Rand, but Avgall connecting back to the park. So we're looking at that first, but there are priorities that we laid out. However, if there's an opportunity to make a connection off the Blue Heron Trail that's there, that we can combine forces and leverage funds with between Bermuda Run and the county, I'm very open to that.
Yeah, I would offer up, I don't know how familiar you are with the Transportation Advisory Committee and the regional connection to North Carolina
RPO.
Department of Transportation, but we, as a town, have been fortunate enough to have the 80% funding for the Blue Heron Trail. We have 2 more projects that we've now been approved for that
Excellent.
further extend that trail. As you're describing that walkability and that connectability, you may want to keep in mind that there are grants either within our region or at the broader Davie County region beyond the Winston-Salem sort of perimeter of that TAC, Transportation Advisory Committee, that has that opportunity for pedestrian pathways to be granted at that 80/20, which basically is covering 80% of the cost and allowing you to further that pedestrian pathway system well beyond the borders of this town, but certainly still part of the overarching Department of Transportation pedestrian pathways, mobility kinds of initiatives. So just throw that out. Benita Finney is very familiar with this, Commissioner Finney, so you may want to sort of connect with her on that, because there's an
Absolutely.
opportunity to leverage those dollars that are tremendously valuable. A mile of pathway is very expensive,
Yes.
and if it's paid for 80/20, you can go an awful lot of miles if you've got those matching funds.
It is
So something to keep in mind.
It is extraordinary to look at the cost of greenways today versus just 10 years ago, especially if you have to do some acquisition, but also utilities. That's usually what drives up the cost so much. If you just have a flat land piece, it's not that bad. Usually 9 times out of 10, that's not the case, but great. I think that's good, and I also think the Yadkin Valley master plan also mentions some of those connection pieces and grant pieces in there, so appreciate you letting me know.
Sure, yeah, what we're familiar with is the area that encompasses Bermuda Run in this part of the county, but it covers the entire state. So everything that we're doing in this region is duplicated in other regions. So it allows, again, that sort of vision of that furthering that walkability well beyond this town. So, yeah, certainly connect with Benita. She's very familiar with that as well. So,
Thank
any
you.
other questions?
So is your equestrian park, is that the next on your list? You
That's
said
part
you
of, that's,
inquired.
if you go on, if you take an opportunity over the next week and look at our master plan in depth on our webpage, you'll see kind of the fold-out 10-year plan of when that is, and I can't remember right off the top of my head when that section is, but the land's been acquired. Naturally, there's going to be a year of design development. And then looking toward construction. But I would imagine that may be a piece, because the land is already acquired, that we'll be working toward quicker.
And then all of these different parks will have different fee structures?
They will, because they're a different specialty type of park. They will. Different return on investment, different fee structures. But one thing I will likely stay away from, just because I've had experience with it in the past, is that resident, non-resident fundraising type of fee structure. I've seen it work. My professional opinion is that it can be a disaster to a local government. It also pulls in unwanted consequences when it comes to the electorate, meaning you all, when that type of fee structure is held, because many times residents will get into that thought process of, well, I can just call my elected official and get that fee waived or this, that, and the other. So many times we've seen at the national level where those communities who have that type of fee structure has been more disastrous than not. But great question. That's a great question. You know, fees are important, but again, looking at tourism, what's outside the county
Right.
may be one, but inside the county may be another. When it comes to the specialty parks. Now, when it comes to rentals, that's a whole different thing. That's where you don't want the non-resident.
Will you work with the school system in the summers, like, to do the old school Department of Parks and Rec events for kids
Yes,
in
we
the
have
summer?
we have a wonderful reciprocal agreement that I imagine as our park system grows, that will also expand. We have schools, even from the high school, the early college, to middle schools, to our elementary schools, visit our park on the regular because we have some unique features. Again, with the Canoplay Treescape, when it gets built, I can't wait I'm sure schools are going to love that. There's also, even within that Canoplay, there's even a literacy piece, a literacy tree within that too.
One of the things I haven't heard you mention is I think a golden opportunity for any municipality, any county like we have, is how do you build partnerships with businesses? You have some large businesses in Davie County, more coming. They do a couple things. They employ people. They pay tax dollars. And more importantly, to give opportunities to people. And I haven't heard that mentioned by you or many others, is how do you take and form these partnerships with businesses to let them be involved in how this stuff gets built and financed and done? Because they have a vested interest in the county. They're here for a reason.
Absolutely.
And they're willing to help. You name two big companies that are here in the area, and I'm not sure they're invested in it now or will be in the future. Talk about Equestrian Center. That's a huge expense, huge expense. People have no idea how expensive Equestrian Center. Go down the eastern part of the state, you can figure it out real quick. So how can you become more creative, not just your department, but others, with how to bring more businesses involved in helping partnership to make these things happen, make them happen quicker?
That's correct. So with our smart growth, and in that plan, in one of those slides, you'll see where 75% of business owners look at facilities to how they're bringing back, if I go back to, or,
75%.
that right there, right in the middle. I can't read that right. It's a little bit smaller for me, but 75% of those businesses look for quality of life features and amenities. Part of our smart growth strategy is, again, going back to the business manager piece of it. That's going to be crucial for our future growth, to looking at these corporate entities, forming a connection to see what opportunities are available. Again, and that's not just those that are here, but those that are looking to move here. So it'll be important for our business manager to have a strong relationship with our EDC, especially for those businesses that are looking into coming into our industrial parks, is what do they have? What potential partnerships are there? Are there alignments within recreation? Some of these maybe there's a business that makes matting that can be used for our future park system, whether it be in our roller rinks or our aerial adventure parks. So matting is very important. Playgrounds, not just for us, but for our school system too, because it's coming. When you're looking at aquatic facilities, the new fall height protection for playgrounds is now 12 inches of mulch. That's getting ready to change again over to more of the pour-in-place type of surface, matting surfacing. So one of those businesses may be that. How can we create those how are we going to create those genuine partnerships to see what resources may be available to us?
That's the key, woman. That's the question. is how to develop those partnerships?
I think it begins
Well,
with,
that's the key.
it begins with the genuine talks, sitting at the table to find out what resources and what alignments there are. And that's the foundation of any partnership, not just a sponsorship, but partnership. But then on top of that, what's most important about any partnership is the relationship that we're going to build with them. How can we help sell their product, their business, and how can they help us? That is when you have that formulation and that genuine tenacity to form that relationship, that's where opportunities are going to come about.
And I agree with everything you're saying. However, to consider developing these particular partnerships and interests on the front end, not when they're here, not once they're here, early on in the process of saying, here is one of the things we would expect out of you as a responsibility of wanting to come in our county with your business.
Right?
So sort of set the stage early on of what their responsibility happens to be. You said another thing here. You used a term 20, for some reason I want to say 23%, but that's not on here. You talked earlier about a percentage. You got 8 to 20 here. You talked about a percentage of return, not just return on
Yep.
investment. You talked about that earlier in your
Yeah,
presentation.
cost recovery.
Yeah, recovery.
Cost recovery.
Question. You talked about your recovery was higher than the average.
State average, correct?
Maybe that's not a good thing. Maybe more of those dollars should be being used instead of being going for recovery. I mean, maybe we are not spending enough.
That's true. And the good thing is to leverage the cost recovery helps us expand our services as we have been doing the last 6 to 7 years.
Okay.
So when we look at a higher recovery, our budget has also increased to expand the services that we're providing too.
I have a question on your backbone. You have these areas of land masses. Are you working with local landowners on?
Landowners and land
Library-
trust. Landowners and land trust
trust.
to help us locate these properties, potential properties that may be opening up, especially those that want to, that may not have family and that would want to donate to some type of open space or preservation of open space for future development. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Hopefully, last question, we'll let you go.
No, hey, ask as many as you want.
Your affiliation with the Twin Soccer Park and the indoor facility, the Rise, or is the Recreation Department, are you involved with those guys?
Yes, as a matter of fact, what used to be Twin City, now Fusion,
Yeah.
they are the reason why we have a turf stadium.
Gotcha.
So we have a great partnership with them, a soccer program that is built in. Some of their overflow, when they have tournaments, and they have a certain number of teams that they can accept at that site.
Right.
When they have more than that, their games come to our
To your
stadium.
That's great.
And which is something that we want, because we want that exposure. Yeah, I can't tell you the number of people that have found our park from those tournaments and have come back to visit, whether it's concerts, whether it's our splash pad or our Ninja Warrior course.
Yeah.
We've even had a couple of special combines. We actually had an SEC combine last fall.
Awesome.
Come to Davie County, an SEC combine, which was, I met some of those recruiters that are paid very well, and they were looking at some of our North Carolina athletes that were Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina athletes. Pretty special. Thank you. Great question. Well,
Mr. Moore,
sir-
thank you so much for taking the time and enlightening us, and we all want to go out there in the heat and run laps, but we're going to hold off on that tonight. But thank you very much, very exciting, and appreciate you taking the time and just walking us through this very much. Thank you.
Thank you for the
again.
opportunity.
All right, moving on to our agenda, item number 9, Town Manager Report and Comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few things, and I'll be brief. Did want to update council on a couple of projects that the town is undertaking. The Bermuda Run West first phase sidewalk repairs were completed last week. I think there were 150 to 170 type repairs that were done. So as we continue to roll through this fiscal year, we'll start a second phase with that. We're still working on the Kennerton Village sidewalk repair plan. I'm waiting on one additional contractor to bid on that, so that I'll have a good base to kind of bounce those numbers off right there. So I'm hoping that we can have that project, those first 13 sections there that were identified by the HOA, that project could get kicked off probably by the end of this month. We'll let you know that we have discussed with the paving contractor. I've had multiple meetings to look at some value engineering in some of their costs. I think that we've gotten the price down to a point as far as it can go. So it's not ideal, but I think that this is the market that we're in. And thankfully, the council seen the foresight to do some creative budgeting that we did to help carry some of that money forward and to take care of that. Still working with the contractor on the flag project. We've got a couple of option designs that he's getting those prices for me. Hopefully I will have something for council to look at your agenda meeting, as well as the contracts for the paving, street paving contract and things like that. So we'll all talk about these at our agenda meeting. An update, I talked with one of the partners with the Hillsdale Group. They were indicating that they would be signing the contracts with Pilot View in the next couple of days. If you recall, Pilot View has decided to work directly with the property owner. As part of what Pilot View did, they went to the state to secure these grants, in which they did. They got a direct allocation out of the state budget from the State Emergency Response and Disaster Relief Fund. Long acronym, but that funding goes directly to PVI, working with the property owner. We are also having conversations with the property owner on accomplishing some of the greenways and connections that we want to see as part of that. So I think we've had a couple of meetings in regards to that. Very responsive the property owner is. So hopefully they can get that part, or that first portion of their project completed, and then we'll have our agreements too. So still working on the connection to the pedestrian bridge. It's the gift that just keeps on giving. So Brian and I are actually meeting with a surveyor on Friday. Hopefully, I think that fingers crossed that we have a path forward to get this thing completed. It's been a good while. So, but outside of that, I will be out of the office next week. But as always, I'll be phone and laptop will be with me, so not more than a phone call or a text away. But if you have any questions, I'll be more than glad to answer that. But that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Any questions? Thank you, Andrew, and looking forward to you having a well-deserved week off. As close as I am to observing our town manager and all that he does each and every day, it reinforces how blessed I am to sit in this chair and not that one, just so we're clear. Just so we're clear. Again, Mr. Moore, thank you again for your presentation. I see we have both our fire chiefs, Miller and Howard, back here, so we are full covered tonight with Advance and Smith Grove. Welcome and thank you for all that you do and your teams. And I was talking to Chief Howard moments ago and thinking about as brutal as that temperature is out there for any of us that are walking around or having to hustle over to our vehicles. Imagine what it's like to be out there and doing the rescue and work that they're doing in these kind of temperatures. So thoughts are with you and your teams. Thank you very much for all that you do every day, but certainly at this time of year. Also, just a quick update on the DOT project. I think it's officially being tattooed to my head. The the request for feedback and input to the North Carolina 801 widening project. We are down to the last few days getting feedback. Monday is the deadline. As a reminder, as I said, and I promise I won't repeat all the emails and messages I send out, but as a reminder, we are in competition. We are really in competition for projects. We're competing against Winston-Salem and a host of other municipalities to try to have our project be near the top. Whether it's number one, number two, doesn't matter as much to me as it makes it across the finish line and allows us the opportunity to, I checked online and I have a map from 2002 that shows that project listed from the NCDOT. So to say that it's been a few decades is not an understatement. I also encourage everyone, send that email in, get that last bit of encouragement over to Hunter Stazak at Winston-Salem Metropolitan Planning Organization. On Monday will be the deadline. The Transportation Advisory Council meeting will be on the 18th. Councilmember Nelson and I are members of that, and she will be joining me as we hopefully have the vote that happens on the 18th that will cement that project wherever it lands and gets us across the finish line. So my thanks to everyone who participated in providing me feedback. I also want to shout out to Mr. Bice. Any of you that read the Clemens Courier, it was an outstanding write-up that laid out the projects, the details, and just did a great job of visually depicting these projects. We have a project, Clemens has a project, and talking about the value proposition of those. So shout out to you, Mr. Vice, for a well-written article in explaining those projects in readable terms. I'll put it that way. Let's see, making solid progress on some of our other projects. Land use and zoning effort continues. We continue to have meetings and working through the details of that. Again, everything going back to our comprehensive plan, that plan saying the objectives and strategies, what we're trying to accomplish as a town. That comes right through to one of the projects, which is land use and zoning, evaluating future land use, zoning, and the impacts, and how we can look at the trajectory of our town and match that trajectory up to what the vision was and the feedback from the comprehensive plan. Work continues on the gate operations for those who live behind the gates with our gated communities and working to improve gate operations. We have 12 members from Bermuda Run East and West that participate as part of that core team. I had the opportunity to help lead that team with Councilmember Tedder, and part of this work is to gather data, get some input, and both cast a near-term and a long-term vision of how we improve gate operations for those who live behind the gates. And pedestrian pathways, I won't give any more update. Andrew's already given that update, but again, very excited about not only what we heard here this afternoon in terms of recreation and parks and the opportunities there, but Blue Heron Trail, Phase 2, Bonson Lakes, 2 new pedestrian projects, and potentially the 801 project extending almost 2 miles more of pedestrian pathway down 801. It's an exciting time. The term walkability seems to be at every other paragraph we talk about, and it's exciting, and I'm happy for that. So with that, I will open up for council for any closing comments.
Motion to adjourn?
Well, I didn't even have that page up, but hold on. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
We do.
And a second.
We have a motion and a second. Raise show of hands. We have unanimous. Thank you, council. Thank you, everyone. Stay cool.